Welcome to Proteins and Their Roles in Human Health. This course is about mRNA medicines, how they work, and what they can be used for. But before we get there, we need to talk about proteins. This is because the way mRNA medicines actually function is by enabling the human body to make its own medicines in the form of proteins. Please take a moment to review the learning objectives for this lesson. Now, you may think of protein as simply an important part of your diet, something you need to eat to build muscle. But it's not just muscle that contains protein. Protein makes up about 1/6 of your entire body weight. And it's not just you. Protein is an essential component of every life form on Earth, from the smallest viruses to simple single-celled organisms like bacteria and yeast, all the way up to the most complex organisms like plants, animals, and ultimately, us. Now, let's think about proteins from the point of view of the human body. In many ways, your body functions like a large city. From this zoomed-out view, a city looks very uniform. But if we zoom in, we can see that it's really a complex array of myriad interconnected buildings. These buildings come in all shapes and sizes. What would we see if we were to zoom in on ourselves? To see the molecular makeup of the human body, we also need to zoom in. As we start to zoom, we can see that our bodies are composed of multiple individual organs or tissues, like the liver and the brain. As we zoom in some more, we can see that these tissues, in turn, are each composed of millions to billions of individual cells. To give you a sense of scale, the average human cell is only 1/10 the width of a strand of human hair. If we zoom in further still, we start to see organelles, like the nucleus, which contains our chromosomes, and mitochondria, the cellular powerhouses from which we derive energy. But if we zoom even further, we can see that these organelles are themselves composed of individual protein molecules. A typical human protein is only around 10 nanometers wide. That's really tiny. They're so tiny that billions of individual protein molecules can fit inside each human cell. Let's take a closer look at the abundance and importance of proteins in our body. Now let's consider cities and buildings again. Just as the word building fails to capture the incredible variety of structures that make up any large city, the generic term protein gives no clue as to the amazing variety of protein architectures that exist at the molecular level. Like buildings, proteins are far from monolithic. Rather, proteins come in all shapes and sizes. Some serve structural roles, like the collagen that makes your skin tough but pliable, or the actin and myosin in our muscles that enables us to move. Our blood contains lots of hemoglobin that ferries oxygen, antibodies to help us fight off disease, and clotting factors to close up our wounds. At the molecular level, the numbers are truly mind-blowing. Each of the more than 30 trillion cells in your body, that's 3 with 13 zeros, contains somewhere between 1 and 10 billion protein molecules. This means that there are as many individual protein molecules in your body as there are stars in the known universe. Collectively, this huge constellation of proteins that make you you is called your proteome. Amazingly, creating and maintaining a healthy human requires the combined action of over 100,000 different kinds of proteins, and your body makes them all. Thus, our bodies are remarkable protein factories. Each different cell type in your body makes different sets of proteins. For example, the rods and cones in your eyes make a family of proteins called rhodopsins that collect light and turn it into electrical impulses, while the neurons in your brain make a different set of proteins to rapidly interpret those impulses and enable you to see. But those proteins are just the tip of the iceberg. Here's the metabolic chart of the human body. It shows the hundreds of different chemical reactions happening inside of you right now that are keeping you alive and well. And each of these chemical reactions is mediated or catalyzed by a different protein, whose names are indicated here in blue. So proteins not only play important structural roles in your body, they're also the machinery that makes your body tick and keeps you healthy. Because building and maintaining a human body involves so many different molecular parts, like any complex building project, the process of protein synthesis needs to be highly coordinated so that the right protein is made in the right place and at the right time. With such a complicated system, however, it shouldn't be surprising that there's an occasional mistake, a miscalculation in the algorithm. Remember that metabolic chart? It's estimated that up to 1 in 1,000 newborns is born without the ability to make a functional version of one of these proteins, leading to lifelong complications due to a permanent fault in their algorithm. Let's consider just one such inborn metabolic disease, von Gurki disease. Babies born with von Gurki disease don't make a functional version of a protein called glucose 6-phosphatase. This protein's job is to help release sugars stored in the liver so that you can maintain appropriate blood sugar levels when you're fasting. So children and adults who lack this protein function can't fast. They must constantly consume small amounts of carbohydrates, including getting up every few hours during the night to eat raw cornstarch. You can imagine the toll this takes on parents. If they ever miss a feeding, their child can suddenly lapse into hypoglycemia, leading to seizures and potentially death. But even if they're able to keep up this endless feeding schedule, these patients are plagued with many other complications, including delayed puberty, frequent infections, kidney disease, and liver cancer. And von Gurki disease is just one of a myriad of such inborn metabolic disorders. For many, we now know exactly what protein function is missing. What if we could give these patients back the ability to make that one single protein? Then we could treat their disease instead of just managing their symptoms. And that's where mRNA comes in. But we'll talk more about that later. As we discussed before, proteins are essential for all biological entities, including viruses. Now let's take a moment to learn a little more about viral proteins. SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, has multiple different proteins on its surface. The most talked about is the spike protein, which sticks out and forms the crown or corona that gives this viral family its name. The rest of the viral surface is made up of additional viral proteins embedded in a sea of lipids. Lipids are a type of fat that form viral and cell membranes. Now, if we take a cross-section of the virus, we can see that inside this shell is an inner core. This inner core contains even more proteins and the instructions to make new viral particles. Now, viruses are not technically alive. To be alive, an organism needs to be able to reproduce or replicate itself. But this requires a tremendous amount of molecular machinery that viruses don't have. Because viruses only contain the instructions for how to make the proteins necessary to create new viral particles, they need to gain access to protein synthesis machinery in a host cell. Let's say a cell lining a human's airways. The virus then injects its instruction set into the host cell to trick the host's protein synthesis machinery into making the viral proteins. So when you're infected by a virus like flu or SARS-CoV-2, the virus uses your cellular protein factory to manufacture its own proteins. Thus, humans are the factories that make new viral particles that go on to infect other humans. The good news is that your body has the ability to tell the difference between human and viral proteins. It can differentiate self from non-self. This is the job of your immune system, and we'll get back to this later. But first, we need to talk a little more about what proteins actually look like and how your body actually manufactures them. This is the topic of the next lesson.